We're here with Brandon Beard from Grow Wealth 101. Brandon is here to talk to us a little bit about real estate investing and how to grow wealth through real estate. And it's been really fascinating talking to you today. I'm so glad that you're here. We're moving into a new topic, which is the biggest mistakes that first-time investors make and how they can avoid them. So obviously there's probably a lot of material here because I would imagine something like investing in real estate is pretty ripe for mistakes. I think there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there. People are probably coming into it with misconceptions that someone else has told them or something that they've experienced that they now think is, going to be happening every time, and maybe it's not. Tell me a little bit, just kind of in general, maybe your own experience with this. I know that you have bought and sold real estate before. Maybe you could talk about, start off by telling us your firsthand experience with making mistakes in this.
Well, no one's perfect.
Yeah.
You are going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But that's okay though.
Mm.
That's the beauty with real estate is compared to other investment mechanisms is that you can really come out of those mistakes. It's going to take you a little while.
Yeah.
It's going to take you a little while. You may get a bit frustrated. However, though, it's something that you can look at and say, I made this mistake. I have moved on. And the most important thing in this process is listening to professionals and finding that right team of professionals.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how invaluable that is. And I've worked with a lot of great people over the years. I worked with a lot of realtors.
Yeah.
I've worked with home inspectors. I've worked with mortgage lenders. And, I have a lot of those same people in my team that I originally started with. Some people, I've moved on from that maybe,
Yeah.
and not because there was a soured relationship, but I saw a better opportunity. Also, your property management company is
Okay.
very, very important to have
Yeah.
a good property management company as well.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more. I mean, when you're looking for this team of people, I'm interested, how did you make the decision about who to work with and who not to work with? Were there general things you looked for?
Well, a lot of it is referral based, quite honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, I really look at what other people have done with their investments in their
Yeah.
portfolio. Who was a good realtor for them? Well, that realtor may be good for me. What are their personalities? Some people work better with one another than others.
Yeah.
As far as lenders are concerned, I'm always looking for good mortgage lenders. Very, very important. And that, obviously the appraiser is a very, very important process, but lenders, banks, credit unions, those are people that really can shape the deal as well. So finding that right partner.
And I would assume if you have even one person on this team that is a bad apple, it could ruin the whole thing.
It could, though, but there are so many moving parts that even if you have a possible bad experience
Yeah.
along the way, don't worry about it, okay?
Yeah.
Well, I could have paid less for this property, or I could have gone with a different realtor. Maybe the property would have sold sooner. There are different things along the way.
Yeah.
But I think, though, if you really research, okay, if you take my course,
Yeah.
would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
But you can avoid a lot of that, though, and you have to be careful what you read too.
I
a
would
lot
think
of
so.
a lot of what you read on the internet is not true. But
Yeah.
I will say, though, AI and other search mechanisms are much better than they used to be.
Right. So it's not necessarily bad to go Googling.
No,
right?
it's not, though. In fact, I would recommend people to do that, though.
Yeah.
But then don't try to do it yourself based on the information you've read online. Probably not.
Don't make your team of people on Reddit.
That's right.
Right.
Probably not a smart move.
Yeah. Is there anything else aside from maybe not assembling the right team? What else would you say is a big mistake that you see people making?
Not listening to the appraiser.
So when they're talking with you as the appraiser, what are some things that maybe they're not asking and you're like, please ask me this. This is really important. Or you find yourself just volunteering because you know they need to know.
I would say, first off, people have a great plan going into it. They've put a lot of thought, a lot of time into it, and they're like, well, what do you think of my plan? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how about asking the appraiser, what have you seen others doing in the marketplace?
Yeah. Okay.
That to me is very, very important because you always want to know what your competition is doing. What distinguishes one investor from the next? Why is this person more successful? Why does this person only have 4 or 5 properties and you want to have 15 or 20 properties? And so I think that that is really, really important to
Yeah.
really look and follow your marketplace.
Mm.
One of the things I used to do years ago, you can't do it anymore, our local paper had a real estate section. And
yeah.
there were real estate moves, and so I got an idea for the players in the marketplace. Obviously, that's antiquated
Yeah.
now, a couple of decades ago, but you can really keep up. When you drive to work, look at the signs in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Look at the realtors involved. Look at other players. You know, you see a nice house that was renovated.
Right.
Maybe go to your local tax records, find out who bought that property. What did they pay for it on the front end?
Because that is all public information.
That is in most markets now. If you're a
Yeah.
non-disclosure state, it may be more difficult.
Okay.
In my market, it is readily available.
Okay.
But Zillow, you know, that's one tool that I encourage people to use on a limited basis. It can give you some good information, but their valuation tool, obviously I'm in the appraisal business. I prefer to have a professional opinion
For sure. Yeah.
versus an AI or computer generated opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the things that people miss out is they want to go the less expensive way by not engaging an appraiser. However, though, what you find online may or may not be correct.
Well, and that makes me wonder, is it really the less expensive way in the end?
In the end, probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. But, you know, I'm not saying that these products cannot work, though, but there's a better way to do it.
And I would imagine if you use them as more of a starting point,
You can.
or to kind of get a general idea of what
That's
you're
right.
probably dealing with, but I would assume you need to take it with a grain of salt, right?
You do.
And then take that information to a professional human, right? And say, here's what I'm seeing. Can you take a look and give me your opinion?
That's right. It would be
Yeah.
a great thing to do to list questions that you have read information in regard to.
Right.
Okay. And ask your appraiser, ask your realtor, ask those professionals,
Mhm.
but don't take literally what you've read online or that's AI
Yeah.
generated to be fact.
Yes, because it's not always an exact representation of what
It's
is
not.
true.
And you can get better information these days.
Yeah.
I would say, you know, search engines, AI, much, much better than they were years ago.
Yeah.
But that's still not a replacement for the true
No.
traditional way of doing things.
The internet and the robots will never replace humans completely, she says, hoping that's actually true.
Right. That is, yes.
Okay. I'm wondering if people tend to overcomplicate real estate. We've talked, about a lot of the mistakes that people are making, maybe some myths they're believing.
Right.
Where are they actually making it harder than it is?
I think on the front end, people say, well, I can't find that property. Okay. You can find that property. Now, you will find the property when you least expect it.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
be honest. The other day, I looked at properties. I made an offer on a property, got into a bidding war. I did not increase my bid. And I'm like, I'm not going to find something. And lo and behold, guess what happened yesterday at 4 o'clock? I got a call, a 3-property portfolio, looked at it at 5 o'clock, made an offer this morning, have an accepted offer.
Man.
So people get frustrated
Yeah.
with it, but I tell people don't get frustrated, okay? It may be a little challenging getting out of the door, okay, with anything else. Number one is you have to push yourself a little bit. You have to get out of your comfort zone. And I tell people, if you have researched, if you have the right team in place, okay, it's all right to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. And what does that look like for people? Where do you see people getting stuck? Like if they're in their comfort zone, they're having trouble getting out of it, what does that typically look like?
Well, it's planning. I think about, my wife is very much a planner.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit more off the cuff than she is.
Yeah.
And so you can look at it from a planning perspective. You plan it all out. Take notes. I advise people to really, really hammer out a business plan.
Okay.
Okay. That's not a bad thing, though, for this
Yeah.
at all. Now, what can be too plain is, well, I have to do this, I have to do that, and professionals are telling me to do something else.
Okay.
That to me, though, but a good business plan, some of my most successful ventures, I have created a business plan.
Yeah.
And I really think that that's important. And that's where on the front end, as we discussed, AI search engines, valuation tools, you can use those on the front end. But when it comes to practically putting that into place with a business plan with your team of professionals, that's where you're going to rely on them, and your appraiser definitely comes into play there.
Yeah. So you're going to use the internet, AI, technology, whatever, to kind of put this plan together. But then at the end of the day, you've got to get the people
That's
to
right.
review it.
That's right. Yes.
Because they have the context. They understand all the nuances.
That's right. And don't be afraid to contact those people early on. When I talk about, your team, build a relationship with your appraiser before you even start looking for properties.
Really?
Yeah, I think that that's an invaluable tool because the appraisers are there to help. Obviously,
Yeah.
they want to make money, and they're fee-based. They're not contingency-based. But I think, though, to build a relationship, to say, hey, you know what? I'm looking at properties. It may be this month. It may be next month. Could I pay you a fee to help me out? Okay, I don't know when that's going to come about, but start building that relationship. Build a relationship with your realtor.
Yeah.
Talk with bankers, other lending institutions. Don't plan to the point where when it practically occurs that you have to act.
Right. You want to go ahead and lay the groundwork.
You want to lay the foundation.
Right.
The foundation is laid early on, and I will tell you, there may be a crack or two in that foundation,
Right.
especially early on. However, though, as you build, it's a building process, though. And this is not something that you want to get rich with overnight. This is not the stock market where you have extreme highs,
you
hit it big, or going to the casino as an example. Okay, this is a long-term investment.
So do you feel like people forget that sometimes? Do you
They do because they're looking at it from the front end. They're saying, well, this is my target. What if I don't quite meet that target initially? But if you stay in it for the long term, okay, you take your lumps if there are some, and you're using it to build long-term wealth.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game.
That's the whole point, right?
That's right.
So when you're working with people who are looking into growing their wealth with real estate, and you're thinking about, all the possible pitfalls, things you've seen happen before, maybe things you actually did early on in your career that you remember, how do you coach them through avoiding those same mistakes?
Well, first off, I sit down with them and say, what are your objectives? What are you looking to do? Okay. Are you looking to buy a small number of properties and hold them for a period of time and build toward retirement? Are you looking to get into this on a part-time basis, possibly a full-time basis? And really say, all right, this is the step-by-step process of what you should be doing based on your plan.
Okay.
Are you looking to maybe flip the house versus keeping it as a long-term rental? I do both, and I do both on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so you need to formulate that plan initially.
So if you're not starting with a plan and people are just sort of diving into this thinking, how hard can it be, right? How do you sort of combat that mentality? How do you talk people through the importance of having a good plan on the front end?
Well, sometimes it can be challenging because people really, they have heard things, the hearsay situation.
Right.
Well, the thing is, the appraiser has to be trusted. There has to be an amount of trust, even if I tell people, I see things all the time, and I tell people, and they're like, that can't be right. You analyze individual markets. Okay. What does that market look like? Well, I just drove by the other day and that looks like a great neighborhood. Well, there may be some things, maybe there's some foreclosures in that neighborhood
that you don't know about.
That you don't know about. And so the appraiser knows that. What if the market conditions are to a point right now where you have to be sensitive to price points?
Right.
We're in an environment right now where rates are historically low, okay, but elevated compared to years ago.
Right.
And so what if the rate environment is not good to make that investment work?
Yeah.
And that's where we really come into play.
So I'm wondering if there's a time where you either encountered someone or had someone going through your course where, they were kind of off the rails a little bit on their plan or what they wanted to do or how they were approaching real estate. and they were able to get back on track with that.
I have a nice gentleman that called me years ago, and I'd appraised a property of his very first investment property. Helped him out with it. He was very happy with it. And then he came to me with a second property, and he wanted to pay an amount for this property, looking to do renovations, actually some of the renovations himself. And I looked at his cost information, and I was very concerned. I'm like, wow, I told this gentleman, I said, look, this is not going to turn out how you think it's going to.
Yeah.
You have way too much in. You would have way too much in this property. Your cost of your renovations are actually too high, and you're paying too much for the property. And when you go to finance this property on long-term financing, you're likely going to have problems with this. He's like, well, but I pulled comps from other databases, online databases, and it's telling me, oh, well, the property should be worth this. Well, in that case, in my opinion, the estimated value was incorrect.
Yeah.
And was something that he really would put himself at risk had he not consulted me on the front end. Appraisers are great consultants. That's me. We obviously are, we value properties, we appraise properties. However, though, use us as consultants. That's one of the things that my former mentor, when I first got into the appraisal business, he was a consultant to people. He helped people along the way. So use your appraiser in that context.
I'm thinking, I mean, if not that everyone's like me, but as I've bought and sold homes, I feel like I've never thought of the appraiser as a consultant. Maybe the real estate agent.
Right.
Because they're the one that you see all the time.
Yes.
Right? They're the ones talking to you and calling you. And so I've never thought to kind of treat the appraiser in that way and take advantage of what they know. How do you feel that they differ from the real estate agent in that way?
Well, realtors are great people. I deal with many realtors on a daily basis, but realtors are more focused on sales.
Okay.
Let's face it, they are professionals. They do sell properties, and they do look at sales, and they have different valuation tools they can use, but that's not their expertise.
Right. Okay.
Truly, selling is their expertise. The appraiser is more focused on the valuation of the property and the long-term value.
Right.
What is this property going to be worth once I renovate it?
Yeah.
Am I paying too much for this property on the front end?
Yeah. So it's kind of like the realtor is the expert guiding you through the transaction process, which is also complicated.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
You need their help on that.
You really do. And some people will try to go at it themselves.
Yeah.
And years ago, that may not have been a bad idea. I would say in this day and age, you definitely want a realtor to walk you through that
paperwork
process.
Sack is
the paperwork. Well, now it's all digital, though. That's the thing. Yeah.
It's been a while since I did this, obviously.
I know.
So they're looking at the transaction, making sure that goes smoothly for you. The appraiser is really looking much more long-term. What's the better long-term investment? How is this going to turn out for you in 20 years, 10 years, whatever it is, right?
Yes. The appraiser is looking at it more from a long-term perspective. And the appraisers in our market and in other markets are constantly analyzing the market. What are the trends that you're seeing? What historically over the last 10 years have properties appreciated? Have values been stagnant? Have they declined? And so you want to know that. You want to know where you sit with your market. Some markets are better for investing than others.
Yeah.
If it's a primarily owner-occupied market, maybe a rental property is not the best market.
Yeah.
And then vice versa. Let's say maybe a flip is not good in a rental market.
Yeah.
So you have to know that's where an appraiser can really come into play and help you.
They have a lot of context on the environment that you're looking in.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So as you're working with people who are looking at investing in real estate, they come in with one mindset, which maybe you can tell is not the best mindset to have. And they've got to shift the way that they're thinking. Can you talk a little bit about what are some of the mindset shifts that people might have that they need to make in the course of that process to be successful?
Patience.
Oh.
Patience, yes. You're in for the long haul.
Yeah.
If you're looking to buy real estate, fund your retirement within 5 years, that's not going to happen. Likely.
Yeah.
You have to be in it for the long game. And I tell people, you need to establish where you are. Where are you in life? Are you at the beginning of your career, the middle of your career, or the tail end of your career? And so you want to take it an extra step with the appraiser to say, where is this leading me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you see this as a long-term prospect? Is it more of a short-term? I flip houses. That's a great short-term mechanism.
Yeah.
But you obviously have to be sensitive to price overruns,
Right.
especially if you're doing a major renovation project.
So what do you see as a short-term solution? Like if somebody is coming in, they do want to invest in real estate, but their timeline is, I don't know, a year. Is there something you would recommend to them? Would you recommend flipping? What would you say?
Flipping would likely be a better scenario
Yeah.
there, because rentals, the margins on rentals on a monthly basis can be slim depending on the structure of your financing, how much cash you put down, if you put down any cash at all.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking for a return, an immediate return within a year period, long-term rental properties are probably not the best
Yeah.
situation. You probably would want to go with a flip in that situation.
Right. And when people need to have, if their goals sort of line up more with a long-term strategy, and I know this probably changes depending on a lot of different factors, but what would you tell someone if they say, well, how long do you mean?
Well, I would say at least 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I would look at it from a 5 to 10 year perspective. Now, if you are at the tail end of your working career and you're looking to fund a large portion of your retirement with real estate, that's not a good cycle.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay.
If you're at the very, very tail end, I have a family member that attempted to do that, and it ended up working out all right, though, but the timing wasn't right.
Okay.
So you have to look at the timing of where you are in your life.
Yeah, because I'm guessing you just need a little bit more lead time, right?
You do.
Yeah.
You definitely need more lead time. That's why if you're early or in the middle part of your working career, then that's a great time, likely.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about mindsets in this conversation, and that seems to be kind of a large part of this whole process, like having the right expectations,
Right.
Kind of knowing what you want out of real estate.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the difference between a novice investor and a seasoned investor. What do you see as far as the mindsets between those two?
Sure. A novice investor is very, very early in their investing career.
Yeah.
That they may not have their team set and the mechanisms in place. A seasoned investor obviously has done it many, many times, has that strong team of investors. And I tell people, if you're looking to just have 4 or 5 properties, that's okay.
Yeah.
That may work for someone. However, though, if you have those 4 or 5 properties and you come across deals organically,
Yeah.
I really think that do jump.
Yeah.
Don't limit yourself. I know sometimes people want to be more conservative with that, which is good. In some senses, because you want to make sure that you're headed in the right path. But if a deal comes your way and you've met your max, okay, strongly consider that.
Yeah.
Strongly consider moving on, because you just never know when that opportunity may not be available, or 5-10 years down the road, you're like, wow,
Yeah.
that would have really made the difference.
Huh. So as people are making a plan for their real estate investments, I know it's important to have a plan. What would you tell someone about being willing to adapt the plan, and how can they do that in a smart way?
Well, adapting is difficult for a lot of people.
For everybody.
Right. They have a plan, and that plan is, well, this is how it should go.
Yeah.
Okay. The wheel constantly moves, right? And it's moving along schedule, and so why should you speed it up? And so I will tell you, once you get in this business, you're successful with it, you're going to have opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay? And don't let the wheel slow down.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't spin it out of control.
Right.
But at the same time, let it organically move itself.
Yeah.
Let yourself be a smart investor. We talked about a novice investor versus a seasoned investor. Well, how about a truly seasoned investor? Seasoned investor may have I don't know, 4 or 5 deals perhaps, okay? But how about that? Take that seasoned investor to the next level.
So I would imagine it's important to build the framework of what you want to do at the beginning of this whole journey, right? With someone like your appraiser. You were talking about using your appraiser as a consultant, someone else that you trust who would be able to walk you through that.
Right.
But then what is the process like of re-examining your goals? I would imagine you need to do that periodically. What are you taking into account when you do that?
You do. I would say probably every year, sit back, look at your notes from the prior year. What did you do?
Yeah.
Did you get accomplished what you wanted to get accomplished? Where do you see yourself moving forward? I think it's important to evaluate that. What is your cash flow with your portfolio? What are your objectives for that year? Are you trying to improve your net operating income? Are you trying to going with that, though, your expenses? Let's say your expenses are out of control.
Yeah.
Let's say your repairs, you're looking at your repair expenses. You're like, wow, I spent XYZ on renovations or repairs. How can I do a better job? Maybe I should interview other contractors. Maybe I should discuss that with my property management company. Those are very, very important factors to consider.
Yeah. So even though someone goes in with a good plan, that doesn't mean you set it and forget it.
That's right. You
should always be looking
you
at
have
it.
to be adaptable.
Yeah.
You have to be adaptable. And I have friends and family, some of them are not very adaptable. They have a plan, and it's a good plan.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good plan, though. But I find in my line of business, and specifically my career, though, I've adapted. As the times roll, I'm able to say, hey, this is good. You have to look at things objectively. You don't want to get in over your head. However, just take a look, sit back each year and say, hey, I may need to tweak this a little bit.
Yeah. And who would you recommend that they do that with? I'm picturing this as something that's not done in isolation.
Right.
And maybe it would be in certain circumstances, but I feel like when you're re-examining something that's this significant, you might want someone else to weigh in.
I would say family first.
Okay.
What are your family objectives? You need a supportive spouse or partner.
Yeah.
That's very, very important. If you're doing it yourself, obviously, you may want to talk with your extended family as well. I would say next, though, meet with your property management company. You've got these properties, a handful of them, you may have a lot. What are the objectives? In fact, I'm meeting with my property management company next week.
Yeah.
Meet with my realtor, say, this is what we found this year. This is what I really want to do next year. I want to maybe buy this number of properties.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in the marketplace?
Yeah. All right, we've talked a lot about mistakes people make when they're getting into real estate investment. You have shared some amazing knowledge, some amazing experience with us. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm so excited to continue talking with you next time.
Well, it's truly been a pleasure. Let's do it again.
Yes, thank you.